Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of EdTALK Coffee. I'm your host today, Hatem Radwan, and I'm joined today by Dr. Saleem Hamady. Saleem is Associate Professor in Physics, and he is a thought leader on AI in education. So, welcome, Saleem, and thank you for joining.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Saleem, since we last engaged together, maybe around 2 decades back when we were at the Lebanese University, I've
True.
witnessed your impressive journey from physics to PhD to AI. And it's really impressive. And this is one of the reasons I wanted to start or kick off this initiative with you. But before we start digging deep into the hot topic, I would like to hear from you a little bit about your journey. What brought you to AI and how this transition happened between physics, PhD, and now AI?
Okay. So to give more time to focus on AI, so we can make this long story short. Of course, passion for physics started when I was in high school. I still remember two main teachers that have a big impact on me regarding love for physics, love for math. And I still remember that maybe when I was 14 years old, I had this idea that I want to become an educator. And I believe not only that, I believe this industry, education industry, I believe it runs in the family. So my grandfather founded a big school with 5 branches all over Lebanon. And in addition of me inheriting his name, I think we inherited something in the DNA regarding the education. So I think I did my BS in physics, then MS, and then the PhD in micro nanosystems. And the main aim was always to become an educator. That was the main aim. And if you ask me why education, I feel like in addition for it being a noble profession, the real impact on the social impact is real, and it really changed people's lives. So maybe this is the main motivation of becoming an educator. Of course, this is the high level thought, but what makes us wake up every morning and go to the class and teach students, maybe this is the moment when you are explaining something new to the students and they got this aha moment, they realize something. So this, I believe, is the day-to-day fuel that keep us going. And regarding moving into AI, you know, my methodology in teaching is mainly focused on showing animation and simulation to the students. That was the main strategy that I always adopt. I feel like when they see it, they are more engaged with it and they can understand it better. My first moment with AI, we've been using many simulators like GeoGebra, we're using PhET. These are very well-known simulators adopted worldwide. One of the main things that hits deep is the feature in Claude. It's also a large language model developed by Anthropic. They have something called Artifact. So what you can do, you can just ask it to create any simulation, any animation you want, and you can customize it. So this is where I felt like AI is really going somewhere, and we have to look into that. And another thing that also resonates with that is I read a post written by, I think, called Paul Matthews. He has a TED Talk. It's also a very nice TED Talk. And in the TED Talks, he said that if we are going to look at AI and the application of AI, we have to see what we do best in education, and we see how to amplify it with AI. For me, this resonates with using simulations and animations to explain some topics. And then I felt like Claude can be used to amplify that. So I believe this was the starting point for AI in education.
And I think at the time people were concerned whether they use AI, is it ethical or is it not ethical, or waiting for some applications to start
Or
applying.
guidelines, yes, true.
You are using this already in your
The thing,
classes.
the thing with AI is that the pace that the AI is changing, and if you look at the pace of the policy making and guidelines, one is moving exponentially while the other is barely catching up.
Yeah. It's really impressive. And before I jump into the main topic of this session, I would like to admire actually what you have said about being a teacher and what motivates you. And I think this is something shared with all educators who've been in this sector for almost 10 years or 20 years or so. Despite all the hard work, the paperwork, all the stress we have, there is always a noble goal that we think about, and a reward actually that sometimes you cannot express to people who are outside the field. This reward that you get when you explain for the student something and they feel grateful for understanding it. And this is where I think trying to move into our topic, how do you think education, especially in AI, can be life changing, especially that AI can have a very negative effect on students or even on teachers by directly getting into the outcomes, into the results, into the conclusions. And before I proceed with this discussion, I would like to highlight the main reason why I thought about having this discussion with you was a post that you have posted, I think last month, on LinkedIn. Usually, there is a lot of AI thought leaders who post on social media or LinkedIn, and they give us advices, they give us strategies, they tell us what to do. And this is very common nowadays. You know, most of the people are mentors, are coaches, are experts. And sometimes you read, okay, you've learned something. What I liked about your post is it's a very smart, intelligent way of provoking people's mind. You didn't tell us at the end of the post the result of this. You just opened an idea and you let me think. And I was thinking about it for a while. And this is why I wanted to discuss today with you this post. Before I move to you speaking about the post, let me share.
I don't have the answer, by the way, but we can discuss it together.
Yeah. So just to share with everyone who will be watching this. So Bloom. There is no point of speaking about Bloom because I think it's something
Very well established.
basic, yes, cornerstone for all educators. But we've always heard that this is the flow we have to move with the Bloom. So I was moving with the post side by side in the hierarchy of the cognitive thinking, and you are connecting the dots, speaking about the journey, which is amazing. Then at some point the discussion made more sense when you started speaking about a sustainable way of knowledge. And definitely, I will let you speak more about this, which I do agree with you. Education isn't about just reaching to the goal. It's about the journey itself and how we immerse and engage our students in this journey. Now, what I liked about that is when you dropped AI to the picture and you said that AI can lead us directly to the top of the pyramid. And that's right, that's true. This let me think about how I use AI and how our students use AI. And I do agree with you that this journey, it's actually what makes sense for the students learning by experiencing, engaging in the journey of learning. Now, all the story changed until you dropped AI here, where you opened an idea that it's reality. When we think about AI, we don't have to follow the journey of understanding the knowledge, looking for the knowledge, applying it. We can directly reach the top of the pyramid, which is creating something. And one example, I might speak about myself, maybe using an AI tool in order to create a presentation, let's say, for example, without looking at the information. Now, according to you, this is not a sustainable knowledge structure, but unfortunately, this might be the way that AI is being used. So you end up this post by putting the two pyramids opposite each other, and by saying at the end, I accidentally put the two pyramids side by side. Feels like I unlocked something, but don't know what is it. Why did you do this to us?
It was really an accident. I was doing that in PowerPoint, and I'm used to duplicating stuff every now and then. And this organically ended up on the last slide. But eventually, and some of the discussions that were in the comments, we can talk about it now, really triggered some of the ideas that might explain, is that really something that we can benefit from? Is there any hidden wisdom behind this accidental thing that happens? Many big discoveries in physics, by the way, they happened by accident. So I don't know if this is going to be one of them in education, but
so
we can unlock it together and look at it.
Yes, before I stop sharing, just I want to spend a few seconds on these slides so that I will give time for people who are watching to just look at it, just imagine the amount of information here. And since you are a physics instructor, you have used time as a reference as well, and you have used a kind of visualized explanation for how to connect the dots together. So yes, tell us more about this. And what I want you to share as well, Saleem, is going back to Bloom. Do you think, do we still need to stick to Bloom in our instructional strategies in the way we deliver lessons, or it's something old-fashioned, old school, that we need to rethink how we approach knowledge?
Okay, that's a very critical question, by the way. For me, when I think of Bloom, when I was first introduced to Bloom, I remember I was writing the learning outcome of a certain chapter or the learning outcome of a certain course. So when you write the learning outcomes of any course, usually you think of Bloom in order to write appropriate learning outcomes. And we try to divide them. Okay, this is where is it at the level of understanding? Is it at the level of design? Is it at the level of evaluation, creating, and so on? So when I was first introduced to it, and by the way, Bloom is not a prescription on how to teach. It's just a framework, and there are different ways of moving within Bloom. So I don't believe that with AI, without AI, with technology, without technology, this framework is going to change. It's just specifying different levels, cognitive levels. So you might remembering might require less effort, and then as you move up until you reach evaluation and creation, you need these are called higher order of thinking. It means that they might require more cognitive skills than the bottom ones. And the idea that when I thought about myself, when I do a reflection on the things that I used to think, when I look at Bloom, when you look at the pyramid, the first thing that pops into your mind, I need to reach the top. This is the thing that pops into your mind. And I believe, I'm not sure about that, we can check it, that when Bloom suggested these levels, it wasn't a pyramid. So I believe this was a representation later. But anyway, if you want to reach the top, this is the first thing that pops into your mind. Like, I want to help the student reach the create. And of course, to reach that, you have to move step by step. So this was the main idea. Maybe since 8 years, I've been looking at Bloom this way. How can I help the student create? That was the aim. Now, when AI came, students can now just create right away. So this is really a troubling thought, because imagine now, without even going at these, you can just, as you said, you want to do a presentation, you just do it and go to ChatGPT, Claude, and just ask it, or Manos, ask it to create a presentation, and that's it. So we are now able to create. But now I thought to myself, okay, so what's the challenge here? Because everyone now is talking about we have to change education, we have to change the pedagogy because of AI. Is it good for education? Is it bad for education? So all of these questions, they are logical questions. But then I thought, why are we teaching this, or what are we teaching the students in the first place? Are we really teaching them to create, or is there something that is beneath that, more important than that? And by the way, I had a fun thought yesterday. Your TED Talk is called Coffee With. So you're having a cup of coffee with someone. And if you think about it, the aim is not to have the coffee. The aim is to have this conversation. And this is the same thing that can be projected onto Bloom.
Yeah.
The aim is not to create. The aim is to show them the journey in order to create. And here where the idea of sustainable knowledge structure came. If you want to build the sustainable knowledge structure, you need to give the student, because we're talking here at the university level or at the school level, you want to give the student a skill or a knowledge that is sustainable, that can be used later. So the aim is not for them just to finish a project, for example. The aim is to give them knowledge that can later be used or adopted in the workforce, so they can use it later, for example. And this is where the idea of sustainable came. So if the student use AI in order to create, you can think of it as if, metaphorically, it's on the top and it doesn't have any foundation. So even if they create, at some point it's going to fall down, because the student don't. And if you just do it with a very simple example, give them a physics question, they can use AI in order to solve it. But then later, if you ask them some questions, challenge them, they will not be able to explain how they were doing it. So what is the idea here? Of course, AI is changing the way we move in Bloom. So in the beginning, we were starting from remembering, understanding, and moving all the way forward. But now, and by the way, this was a post that on LinkedIn I saw from Dr. Michelle. she has a very nice post where she flipped the pyramid, and she was saying that this pyramid should be flipped in the age of AI. But at the same time, if you think about it, if they just create, this is not sustainable. Even if you flip the pyramid, this is not a sustainable structure. In order for it to be sustainable, to be used later, now they have also to move, but instead of them moving up, now they are moving down if you keep the pyramid in the same direction. But regardless of that, so what's the aim? Is the aim the pyramid? Is the aim blooms? I felt like the aim, as I said at the beginning, it's the journey. It's practicing every step. So later, whenever you are going to build something real for a company in the work, you have to move through these steps. Now, of course, AI is changing as you see, the axis, time was going up, now time is going down. But still, as an educator, my aim is not to help them reach not help them reach the top of the pyramid, but rather the focus should be on this path that they take. And as you see, we are connecting these learning outcomes. This is especially at the university level, we have multiple courses. And the aim at the end, when the students do their senior project, the aim is to connect different ideas from different courses. And this is something that I feel like is the human touch, and it can be unique for every student. So we have, let's say, hundreds of, these games that we used to play, you have multiple dots and you start connecting them and then you see a certain figure. Well, the way I would like to think about it is that when we graduate, we have, let's say, thousands of these dots. And every structure, every way of connecting is going to create a new product or a new way of thinking. So the idea is not to reach any certain dot, but it's the way we connect the dots in order to create something unique, something that is really our contribution to what we might later do.
I think there's too much information to grasp from what you are sharing, and I agree with you in terms of how we look towards Bloom. However, there is a lot of new ideas I'm learning from you, Dr. Saleem. The point I want to raise here is, by the time students, mainly I'm speaking about students because the main ultimate goal of education is educating those students, supporting them in building their own skills and finding their own path in life. By the time they do have access to AI and technology and access to information and access to the tools so that they are able to create and they are able to jump directly into the outcomes that teachers want, including how they use AI in assessment and finishing their assignment. And I recall last month I had an EdTALK session, panel discussion with school leaders, and one of the principals he mentioned that when I asked him about how AI is being used at your school, he said from students' perspective, it is a teaching tool. Full stop. Sorry, cheating tool, not teaching, cheating tool. This is how students look at AI, and whether it's K-12, whether it's higher education, it's an easy way for them to have a shortcut to what they want. So from your perspective, whose responsibility is to put what you have mentioned in a framework, in a new methodology that we train teachers on? Who's responsible to do that? Is it teachers? Is it administrators? Is it a new approach in how we use AI? Do you think we need to limit AI and the use of AI until we find a way that resonates in what you are expressing here? Because to be honest, if students are able to reach what they want with AI, do you think that they are going to spend more time backward learning the basic concepts? Let me give you an example. Um, in English lessons, and I had a session about how to use AI in English classes. And one of the teachers were saying is, I don't allow students to use AI because what they do is they ask the AI to write the essay. I told her, think about this. Let them either AI write the essay, they learn from AI, then the other day they write it without AI, or even they write their own essay, upload it, let the AI grade it. But definitely AI can add an opportunity. Now, do you think students by nature, they have this motive in order to, they care about the journey? They care
That,
about
that,
concepts?
yeah, that's a very good question. Just to answer your, I think there are multiple questions within this.
Yeah.
So for the first part, I think that every party has its own responsibility. So yes, there should be some responsibility for policymakers. There should be some responsibility for administrators. But I think the main focus, the thing that I'm going to focus about is from my perspective as an educator. So the thing that I strongly believe is that AI is for educators is like a wake-up call. I really would like to see the bright side of AI and move from there. You know, when we think of COVID, I believe in many places, the quality of education might have deteriorated a bit during the COVID period. Everything was online. Some students, we cannot guarantee that the student is listening to us. They are just over the screen. And if you ask me what was the final impact of COVID, there might be some deterioration in the learning outcomes, but there was a huge leap for us as educators in digitization. And if it wasn't for COVID, maybe we'll not be able to grasp what's happening in AI today. Imagine if, because, you know, if I think about the educators that I used to teach with, many of them were barely using any digital tools. It was very traditional. Because of COVID, maybe you see, I don't know, 100% of educators just switched to digital. So imagine this shift. It wouldn't have been possible without the COVID. So COVID was like a wake-up call. Let us go digital. Now we're digital. Now we get the other slap.
Yeah.
What are we teaching? Are we really teaching the things that we should teach? Because if you think about it, as a physics instructor, sometimes I'm really frustrated when I look at the questions that we're asking and the way students are responding. And I have seen a lot of excellent teachers no longer teaching for the beauty of physics, to feel the true physics concepts. We're teaching them in order to succeed in standardized exams. So if you see this question, this is the method that to use, without any physics whatsoever sometimes. So sometimes you can barely know anything what's happening in physics, but still for this problem, you use this equation, you substitute the numbers, you get the value. This is not teaching physics. So AI, for me, I felt like AI came as a wake-up call to say, okay, a machine can do that. So what is the added value that the human can do now? So for me, I feel like this is really an opportunity, a forced opportunity to really think, what are we teaching in the first place? Now, of course, we are not going to ditch teaching physics, but we are going to change the way we're teaching it. And we're going to change the way we are assessing it. Because if you ask me, if I go, for example, I don't know when was the last time I taught a high school student, preparing them, maybe a relative preparing him or her for the exam. It was really just do this, and do that, and then you will reach the outcome. And this is not a proper way of teaching physics. Now, when we think, okay, I'm going to give an assignment for the student, and this assignment can be solved by AI, this challenges us to start thinking in a different way. And this way is leading for us to teach more about physics. To give you a small example, one of the papers that we have published, I think, a few months ago, it gives a way on how can you redesign the assessment in order to challenge the students to think something that is, I'm not going to say AI proof, because maybe by the time we end this conversation, a new AI tool will be generated and it can solve what we're doing. But the basic idea is to create an interactive question. And by interactive, I mean, you know, the idea when you need to verify that you're a human, currently, you just have to tick the box or select some boxes. So it's just an interactive way. The idea is to take this idea and implement it in physics problem. And this idea can be generalized into different STEM fields. So the idea is to create something that is an animation. And for the students, they have, for example, a ball is moving and then it stops after some time. So they have to play it, they have to watch, they have to observe it. And this is what physics is about. It's observing nature and trying to make sense out of the things.
ChatGPT cannot do this work for them.
for now, yes. For now, yes, they cannot do it. So you have to play it, you have to observe what's happening. And we also tried sometimes sharing some screenshots with the ChatGPT. So for example, the student will play it, take a screenshot, send it, and ChatGPT might ask it, okay, share with me another screenshot. So look, in this case, ChatGPT cannot do it blindly, because if you give it a traditional question, it can blindly give you the answer.
Yeah.
Now, at least ChatGPT or any AI tool cannot give you the answer blindly, because you have to observe, you have to know where to stop and where to resume. You have to measure the time. You have to do it with your stopwatch. It is as if you're doing an experiment. And the way we did it, we integrated with some other tools that can generate multiple versions. So now we are able to generate multiple versions of the same animation. So students cannot cheat from one another. AI tool cannot solve it. And like what we did, in addition to that, we test, okay, can AI solve this question if the students share multiple screenshots? And what we have discovered is that once you share a screenshot, AI might ask you, okay, give me more information. Okay, help me measure this. Okay, measure this, measure that. And by the end of the conversation, we have noticed that, well, AI can solve it. But if you look at the prompts that were happening, AI now is not working as a shortcut to cheating.
Yeah.
But on the other way, it was working as it should work, as a tutor, as a helper. So it was guiding the student one step at a time. And sometimes it giving multiple strategies. For example, measure the time and see where the box stops. And then we said, okay, I cannot see where the box stops. It's still moving and I cannot see it. Okay, so it says, okay, let us stop it at 2 seconds, reach. So you see, it's now having a conversation instead of just giving the answer. So this paper, I think, was published in 2024, a few months ago. We have an upcoming paper because the animation that we did was done through GeoGebra. GeoGebra is a very fancy tool.
Yeah.
Any mathematician should, if they are they're not using it yet, they have to use it. But all the animation was done on GeoGebra. So we were drawing the circles, we were drawing the ground, we were drawing the axes manually, and this was taking a lot of time. So if you want to do it, you can do it, but there is a lot of friction. So imagine if an instructor is going to do it, they are going to spend a reasonable amount of time doing it. And maybe they will say, okay, it's not worth it. I have a lot of grading to do. I have to spend some time with my family. So they're not going to do it. What we're exploring now, thanks to Claude and the option of artifacts, and it's getting better and better every day. Now, instead of doing the animation ourselves in GeoGebra, we are using AI tools in order to create the animation and then integrating it with another tool to create multiple versions. So when you think of AI and its benefits, this is something that I believe is very important. It's not about also one single AI tool. There are multiple AI tools. What will be unique for every educator is the stack of tools or the stack that they build. For example, you can integrate Claude, I think, let's say with Google Classroom, with another tool that can create questions. So there are multiple tools. Each tool is good in one thing, bad in another. But what will distinguish educators or schools is the way they build their stack. So what we're doing now, we have suggested a stack on how to create multiple versions. Hopefully the paper is still under review, so I think when it's published, we can share it. But it is a way of integrating multiple tools to use AI to combat AI. We call it an AI for an AI.
Excellent.
Like an eye for an.
To be honest, it's the first time I hear someone who reached this level of AI integration into the class. All the discussions that are been running around AI was around ChatGPT, prompt engineering, and how we make the work of the teacher easier, and how we reduce the load, how we personalize learning. But I like the tangible examples you are giving, and this is something that teachers can really apply. And I see here, honestly, a very huge, big opportunity for AI. And this is, I think we agree that we can see this, and I hope that other educators are seeing it. And to your point, we have no other choice. It's either we use it or we use it. So can I conclude that we have to coexist with AI?
Yeah, the term coexistence. I think there is also Dr. Ethan Mollick, I think. He has a very nice book called Co-Intelligence. So the way I interpret it is that maybe a few years from now, of course, our main discussion was until now is that how can we teach with AI?
Yeah.
Or what should we? But I think there's also another part, as you know, there's how to teach and what to teach. So our main focus was now on pedagogy, on the way of teaching, the way of assessment, but also there's a big part of what to teach. And this can be connected to the last slide that we had in the post. So the way on what to teach, we cannot ignore the impact of the AI tools that are being developed. We have AI tools to create videos, songs, designs, 3D shapes. So it's affecting the diagrams. It's affecting every domain. So of course, these AI tools should be integrated in some way or another in the curriculum. This is on the way of what to teach. So once you integrate that, you have really some intelligence that you are telling the student about. And once the student explore it, understand it, we need to see how they compare their human intelligence with this artificial intelligence. And this is where we can think of co-intelligence.
Very interesting. And one point I would like to mention here as well, Saleem, is with all the capabilities that AI is capable of, with all the data analysis, all this intelligent machine learning, and the power, especially we are being introduced to AI agents that can communicate together and can do operations by communicating. Still, there is the human factor that you mentioned earlier, which is missing, which always we need to add. And this goes back to how we plan our lesson, how we communicate. And this is always comfort teachers when we say that, yes, AI cannot replace humans, cannot replace teachers, because there is a huge part that you are doing, but you have to keep doing it. You have to keep looking for this missing aspects in AI and present it in the human connection. And one of that is emotional intelligence, experiential learning, reflective learning. And I recall when I used to teach, one of the things that I used to do is ask a student questions that require their opinion, so that require their own experience. And there are a lot of strategies that can support teachers in that. So what do you advise teachers who are watching, whether it's K-12 or even higher education? What is the best approach toward AI? I know you are an AI expert and you have been doing research and development and publishing papers, but not everyone can have the same journey. And until we reach a point where there is a policy or there is a standardized, which will never happen, because to your point, it's happening exponentially. Some people might be left behind.
True.
So what do you think are the quick actions teachers might do in order to start implementing effectively AI without having it as a distractive or cheating tool? Just simple advices do you think teachers can apply, despite of the subject, just in general?
I believe the answer for that can be divided into two parts. When it first comes to what am I going to do with AI? That's maybe the most common question that we have today. I feel like the potential of AI, there is still a hidden potential that we don't know how things are going to change a few years from now. But the starting point, and I would like to refer back to the post or the TED Talk by Paul Matthews. He said, let us think of what do we do best? So what are the principles of learning or principles of education? We know that students perform better when they get immediate feedback. We know that students perform better when there's some interaction. We know that students perform better when there is interactive material, visuals. We know these for sure. So let us take this as a start, because we need a starting point. And we can start from this and then improve as we move forward. So let us think of what are the best practices in teaching. And every instructor, they have their own thing. So let us start from that and let us see what AI tools resonate with my way of teaching. For example, for me, it was showing animations and simulations, and I have found a very nice tool that resonates with that. For me, having a student having one-to-one discussion with a private tutor, that's a very nice thing. And now we have ChatGPT that can do that. Of course, it's not going to be a one-click thing, but we have to start exploring, to explore whether this tool does it truly resonate with what I'm doing. And these tools are being developed now. So sometimes you might be testing it, you find something, you post something on LinkedIn, it might get the attention of the company, and then they might develop something that resonates with you. So I think if we are going to see the applications of AI, we have to start. The first thing, we have to start exploring it. And then in which direction should we go? We should go in the direction that serves the way we teach. Is it interactive learning? Is it with, as we said, with visuals, with private tutors? And if you listen to many leaders in education, for example, Sal Khan, the guy behind Khan Academy, if you listen to his TED talk, his presentation was about something called the 2 Sigma problem. It is showing that this is a very old study showing that students with a private tutor perform much better than students in a class by 2 standards of deviation. So if you look at their average, the average shift. And from this perspective, this is the way he's thinking about AI. Okay, let us develop a private tutor for every student. So he's using AI as a private tutor. So you see, every educator, they have their own thing, and they are looking at the AI tools that resonates with the way they teach. So this is the first part of my recommendation, is that start with what you believe is correct and start exploring now, because things are moving really very fast. So this is the first part regarding AI. The second part, which is about the human nature. We shouldn't overlook, okay, we're looking at Bloom and the cognitive hierarchy, but there's another hierarchy that is as important as the cognitive one, which is the affective one. And if you look at the hierarchy for the affective skills, you can see that at the bottom you have students that are receiving. So the bottom is that students want to hear you. So they go to the class. Okay, they are at the first level. The second level is that it's going to be responding. So it's receiving, I think, responding. And then after that, you have the values, the characterization, and then I forget what was the last one, but the last one is what's going to be the habit of the students. So building these good habits for the students is also one way of tackling AI, by creating awareness sessions, showing them really how AI can be good or bad for them. When we talk about that, many people say, okay, no, this is not going to work. Students are really not gonna adapt for that. But we should keep on going with that. Although there's a small opportunity, but we shouldn't give up on that. Advising, really telling the students about the benefits and the drawbacks of AI. And this is not only going to be for the students, by the way. Teachers should also think about these topics. And of course, as we were saying, things are moving very fast. But just to sum it up, we should also think of the human touch in education. So for me, for now, if you ask me how to move forward in the second part, try as much as possible to get feedback from the students. Try as much as possible to make your teaching interactive. Because really, I still remember, and this is something that is very selfish of me when I started teaching. When I went into my first class, I still remember it very well. My main goal was not to teach the students. I was aiming to teach the student, but I was trying to make an impression that I'm a knowledgeable person.
Yeah.
And later, I really felt like this is a very selfish thing to do, because I was teaching to get some reward back. If after I go from the class and I hear the students saying, well, this is a very good professor, this will fill me up with joy. And then later I felt like, no, this is not how teaching works. The teaching works when the students say, okay, I got that idea very well. I was fascinated with that idea that I learned today.
This shows that you have a very good impact on the students. So you need to celebrate this as well, because not every teacher got this reward from the students.
yeah, but if you're aiming to get credit for yourself, you're not teaching the proper way.
I agree. Yeah.
And the way you have to do it, think about it this way. When I go to class, maybe 10 years ago, I used to give a lecture for 1 hour and a half, just speaking to the students. I asked some questions. I motivated the student to reply. Maybe 2 or 3 students were participating. So think about it this way. I have around 90 minutes. I'm taking 80 minutes of the lecture, and I'm giving the student 10 minutes. So one person is taking 80 minutes. 30 students are taking 10 minutes. This is not teaching. Well, this is teaching, but it's not learning.
Yeah.
So I'm teaching the students, but I'm not making sure that the students are learning. So I believe the wake-up call that we got from AI is, let us talk a little bit less and let the students talk more. Let us really engage. And there are plenty of tools. Maybe you are engaging them without technology. Maybe you're engaging them with technology. But the more you interact with the students, the more things you can get out of them. This is going to make their brain work. And this is what we need. We need the students just to think, just to flex their brain muscles, so their brain muscles get stronger and stronger, so they can tackle real problems, regardless of AI.
And,
So this
and
is
I believe, yeah, and I believe this is exactly what teachers must do, especially those who are threatened by AI. Whereas instead of looking at AI as something that will make students lazy, it's something that, due to their instruction and how they design the lesson, can make students more interactive. And definitely, to your point, interactivity lead to engagement, and engagement lead to more effective learning. And this is the fact. Um, it's an endless discussion, I believe,
yeah.
and I was not looking for any conclusions from this call. Instead, it was an opening for a long-term discussion, and I believe we definitely are going to have more and more of these discussions. I have one more question, and always I would like to think about people who think from the other side. Do you think AI is a trend, but it's gonna move in the hype cycle? At some point you mentioned COVID, and COVID let all the people have laptops and devices and learn. Even those who've been in education for 50 years doing the same practices, they changed. But 2 years after COVID, when I was a teacher at my last year, I've seen teachers delivering a very boring lesson without any technology, writing on the blackboard, turning off the screen, and just giving a lesson that they used to give in 2018. So this is human nature and inertia. Maybe you can tell more about inertia and how we resist the
Mm.
change. Some people still believe that, and they are waiting. They are observing. They believe that AI, it's a hype. It's something coming now, and at some point we will go back to our ways of teaching, because education is a very stubborn. It's a very fixed structure when it comes to curriculum, teachers. It's not easy to. I see it myself as a paradigm shift. But what do you think? What do you tell those people who are bidding on AI having less focus in the coming years,
It's just
and
like a
then
bubble, and it's
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
end sometime.
What do you
Well,
say?
I don't think that we can compare what's happening today in AI to what happened in COVID. Of course, what happened in COVID um, was was um, for a short period of time,
Mm-hmm.
and extra measures or special measures needed to be implemented for a special situation. And when the situation, the COVID thing went away, we went back to the normal. And I don't judge, by the way, or I don't think that not using technology in the class is a bad thing, not turning on the projector.
But
What my, yeah, yeah.
let me just challenge you here. After COVID, I went to a 99% paperless classroom. I taught 2 years after COVID, because I believe that this is sustainable way for environment, and it was very effective. After COVID, I moved into cloud storage. After COVID, I stopped using USBs. I start because I've learned during COVID that there is too much technology can give us. There is
True,
too
true.
much. There is too much opportunities that teachers can have that can make their life easier. But because schools, they wanted to return back, not the teachers. Schools, they wanted to return back to the examination on paper, because they couldn't control cheating. They couldn't have enough training, and this is something I observed. They didn't train the teachers well to effectively use technology. They gave devices for students without monitoring the devices, so students started playing games, and so all went in a mess, to be honest. And this is not everywhere, but in general. And this
True,
led
true.
parents' voices started saying, "We don't want devices. We want the traditional way. We don't. We want the teacher to be present all the time." But in some situations, teachers who really invested in understanding these tools, their students were more engaged. They were more connected. And this is
Exactly.
again, yeah.
See, this is where I want to reach. By the end of the day, this is just my thought. At the end of the day, I don't care what tool the instructor is using. What I care about, and this brings us to the student-centered thing, I care about the student being engaged, or the student being, will have an interactive learning environment. This is what I care about. So of course, in some places, using technology can enhance the interactivity with the students, but maybe also in other places, maybe you're using technology and you are not increasing the interactivity. So the
Yeah.
way I think about it, in COVID, we switched into digital learning. Now COVID is done. Many people are not using digital or technological tools. And I'm fine with that. If these tools are not promoting interactive learning, I'm not going to use them anyway. So if an instructor goes back to the class and use a chalkboard or a whiteboard, I'm fine with it as long as the students are interactive in the class. I don't mind. Of course, there is a lot of potential that the instructor is missing, but as you said, there is a lot of friction between first starting from the from the policies, from the IT. So there are many departments that are involved in that. If you think about traditional education, you just need an educator, a pen, and a board, and that's it. Now, when you're switching to digital, you need several supporting departments in order to. So you need to do some investment for sure. But at the end, it all boils down to the students. This is the way I think about it now. Students are interactive, go with it. It's not creating an interactive environment, don't do it. Even if AI is in it, even if you put a policy or you put a checklist that we need to adopt AI in our system, AI is not creating an engaging environment, then don't use it. Then AI is a bad thing to implement. My belief is that if you implement it properly, of course, it's going to create an interactive environment. Of course, it's going to simplify the life of the teacher. Of course, it's going to accelerate the learning process. So I still believe that there are many. I don't believe that COVID is the same as AI. I don't believe that AI is just a hype. We can see now living examples, assignments. I don't know, 90% of homework, they can be now easily solved. Traditional homework can be easily solved. So there is a pressing issue. Unless something magical happens and all these AI companies stops, and I don't think this is going to happen. So it's not something that's going to happen for a small period of time. It's already there. It's already established. So we have to deal with it. And the only way we deal with it is just to understand what it is. This is the first step.
I believe this is a very powerful conclusion. And yes, your point, governments are investing heavily in AI and developing large language models. Myself, I've been engaged in a lot of projects around the areas here when they have a strategy, an urgent strategy for AI. And governments are looking what to do with AI, how to start with AI, because, it's a race. There is a lot of value, especially if we go even outside the education. AI represents a big return of investment approach because it can automate stuff, it can be efficient, especially when it comes to data analysis, when it comes to administrative work, and definitely we can have discussions more. So I think going back to our core discussion for educators for teaching and learning, I think we can reach a kind of a conclusion for this session, but an opening for other sessions, which is AI is a fact. It's no longer an experimental in the experimental period. It's no longer something that we decide whether we use it or no, and it's not. Yeah, go ahead.
Although it is in the experimental part for educators.
Yeah.
It is well established. Now I think it's our part to take these tools and start experimenting. And I think for what schools can do or universities can do, it is to give the teachers the luxury of failing. If I'm going to use an AI tool, in many cases, many schools might be afraid, okay, is this going to be good? Is this going to be bad? So they are afraid to use a certain tool and then fail at the end. And this something might prevent progress. So the best way, I think, is to maybe do a pilot test, take a small course, and start experimenting. Even if it fails, we know that this is not going to work. This is an additional information for us.
Yeah.
But experimentation with these AI tools, I think, is a must.
And I think what's good about AI is it's in the hand of the consumers. It's in the hands of everyone. We don't have to wait coming from decision makers. And I do recommend that educators invest in learning in tools, and I think this is the way that you find your path in AI, and I find my path in AI by trying, testing, investing, and as you mentioned, trial and error until you compare, because there is a lot of tools out there and everyone can choose the tool that works for them. Any other things you would like to add before we wrap up this endless discussion?
I think you mentioned at some point when you show the post, you mentioned these two flipped pyramids.
Yeah.
And it was, and it's still an open-ended question. But something that I would like to finish with, something that that I got when I was reading the comments on this post. It is when we think, okay, AI can now create something right away. We think of that, and you were mentioning it. But if you take that AI can create this, there's also a small pyramid there that can be categorized as Bloom, in which, okay, you're going to use AI to create it, but to use this AI, you have to remember which tool you're going to use. You have to understand how this tool works. You should work with this tool. So you're moving, you're still moving in Bloom. You're still moving in the traditional way. The way for example, when you say, okay, I created a presentation using AI. Now go to your, I don't know, go to your parents and ask them create a presentation using AI. They don't know how to do it. So it's not as simple as for us, because we have moved a long way in order to create it. Now we can see that we can do it faster. But still, for someone to create with AI, they have to move in the traditional manner that we used to do.
They need to have a certain amount of knowledge about how to use that.
They have to explore. They have to explore the AI tools. So in order to get this shortcut, whether this shortcut is good or not, you should explore these AI tools as you were recommending. Try as many tools as you want. Engage with them. Try to understand, analyze, interpret the outcome. Try to create. So the small pyramid that we have with AI, the top of it is to create with AI, which can be the start for the other flip pyramid. So if you put these two pyramids, one on the top. So this thought, we got it while we were doing some conversation with some of my colleagues on LinkedIn. But it could be this thing that we move traditionally to learn AI, and once we master, we are able to create with AI. This opens a new world where we can directly create and then move backwards in the other pyramid.
Very interesting, and I'm looking forward to explore more about how we're gonna conclude this post, if we are gonna conclude it at any point. Yeah. Thanks. Thank you so much, Dr. Saleem. It was really a pleasure. And as I mentioned, it's not the last coffee meeting with you. Definitely we'll have
Although we
more.
didn't have coffee, so viewers should know that you owe me a cup of coffee.
Yeah, definitely, hopefully. And I look forward for more engagement with you. Just to mention that we are currently working on putting together AI solutions. We are building use cases from educators, and I'll be happy to use some of your insights to support our development, our vision towards developing AI solutions that teachers and students can use in one place without having the hustle of trying different tools and merging them and building stacks, as you were mentioning. And hopefully at some point, these products are gonna reach light, and we will share more about this, because this is the main focus, is how we support teachers. Ourselves, there is a mission, and I believe that as educator, you cannot keep knowledge for yourself. Always sharing is the best practice that a human being can do. So thank you for sharing too much today, and hopefully for another meeting later. Have a good day. Thank you.
You too. Bye bye.